And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Talk podcast. I'm your host, Harrison Reno. Alongside me, co-host Dan Kiley, Kobe Pierce, back here on another wonderful Wednesday evening. Gentlemen, the off season, sadly for us, is in full form. The first full week of it over here on the Top podcast. First, I guess, or second real edition of the off season Top Dog Talk. And that's why we're talking transfer portal today. We have a loaded show. We're talking transfer portal. We're talking the NFL draft. Then we're going to hit you with previews and predictions of the college football playoff semifinal games, which we were hoping Georgia would be in so we can give our take on that. Be doing a preview today, but that's not going to happen. So instead, we'll do that, and then we'll wrap it up with the return of the blind draft. It has been quite a bit since we did one. This would be Kobe's first blind draft over here on the Talk podcast. I don't know what the topic is that Dan has put together for us. Kobe doesn't either. Dan's the only one with the ingredients of what is shaping up to be hopefully one of our better blind drafts. I'm excited to get into that. Before we dive into the transfer portal, gentlemen, how are we doing this Wednesday evening?
Doing really well, and I am always just mind blown at how fast you say Top Dog Talk. I think it's like a competition with yourself to see if you could say it in less than half of a second.
Oh, it's what we're going for.
It's all one word.
It's all one word.
It's all one.
No spaces, just dashes.
It's a beautiful day. Harrison and I, Dan, I assume you too. A lot of people and listeners in North Georgia, Tennessee, getting ready for the snow that is going to descend upon us. They're calling for 4 to 5 inches on Friday, I believe, in Athens. So, not sure, Dan, obviously not that far away from us, but would assume a lot of the same. And then want to take a second and give a shout out to the wife. It's her 26th birthday today. So
happy birthday.
There you go. Happy birthday to Miss Pierce. Mm-hmm. Thank you for letting us steal Kobe for a little bit. Since he is on a deadline here, he has to get back to his wife. We will go ahead and jump right in. Happy wife, happy life, Kobe.
Hey, we're in no hurry.
Wise man once said that.
She's on rotations for school in Augusta for a month, so
oh boy,
she's not even here. So we're long show tonight.
Kobe's gonna be having the cake without her. All right, gentlemen, let's talk about the transfer portal. Georgia has had two big additions so far. And I say big additions because probably at the position of need. You get 2 receivers in Zachariah Branch. We touched on him briefly on Sunday's show. Then you get Noah Thomas the other day, committed after transferring over from Texas A&M. But in addition to those folk, you also have 4 other commits that have committed via the transfer portal. It's very crazy to me. If you asked me going into the offseason, what would be the 2 positions that Georgia would go after heavy in the portal, safety wouldn't have been top 3 for me. I know there's a lot of departures in that room just with the draft and graduations, but I didn't think that we'd see 4 safeties come in through the portal so far. But we'll get to that. Let's start where we left off on Sunday's show. Zachariah Branch, true freshman All-American back in 2023. Hasn't had the best, I guess, maybe start to what you're hoping is a number 1 receiver. But my God, we'll start with the special teams aspect of him. He made the All-American. He was an All-American just by itself because of his ability on special teams as a returner. Gentlemen, what do we think about Zachariah Branch's addition to this Georgia offense?
Yeah, I think he brings some world-class speed that we've tried to have with some other players the past couple of years, whether it be Arian Smith, whether it be Mekhi Muse or Anthony Evans. I think that all those guys, while all great, and I'm not sure that anybody has ever played at Georgia faster than Arian Smith. I'm not sure that Zachariah Branch will be that either, but there is a finesse to being a receiver besides running the go ball. And also, a big part about catching the passes when they're thrown to you. We talked about Arian he had a little over 800 yards this year. But like you're saying, probably had 300, 400 yards worth of drops accumulated over the course of the year. I really think that they're bringing in Branch to be a little best of both worlds, somebody that still can take the top off the place, but hopefully is sure-handed enough to catch those opportunities when they come his way.
Yeah, we're going to find out really quickly whether the drop thing is a Georgia thing or if it's a wide receiver thing, a personnel thing, because this man had, I think, Harrison, you shared it the other day. Was it one drop all season long? I believe it was. So he's had one drop the entire season. I have not watched a ton of tape. I know he's a really good player. I know who he is. I knew about him in the recruiting cycle. Kind of gives McCole Hardman vibes. If I'm wrong, call me out on it. But that's the little bit that I've seen. That's kind of what I saw. But I think it's a great addition. Anytime that you're bringing in somebody that talent level, it's a great addition. But even if, for whatever reason, if the wide receiver thing doesn't pan out to be, like a 1A type of guy, he is a 1A type of return guy. And that's something that's really been missing with this Georgia football team. Now, we've had some guys back there that could do it, like Malachi Starks was back there this year. I love Malachi to death, and he is an incredibly talented athlete, but he's not a return specialist. That's not what I would ever, describe him as. Like I said, going back to the McCole Hardman thing, I mean, he is real slippery. I wouldn't say Isaiah McKenzie because I think Branch is more talented, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful to Isaiah because we loved him while he was here, but, super talented guy in Branch. I was just trying to think of somebody that made a little bit of sense. And Harrison, I don't know what you think, but it just, the little bit that I've seen, Hardman is the one that kind of came to mind. And if you could tell me we're going to get that level of production, I'm pretty happy.
I think in terms of former Georgia players, he's probably, I think that's probably the closest, I guess, comp you could make. This is somebody who ran a 10.3 back in high school, was a Nevada Southern 5A region champion in the 100 meter, 200 meter, and long jump. That was all as a sophomore, gentlemen. We're talking about an elite athlete here in Zachariah Branch. The one thing, Dan, that comes to mind when I went back and watched him today, the little bit I was able to watch of him since he transferred, was just the feeling of, hey, anytime he touches the ball, it could be a home run in terms of, hey, he could take this all the way. You just never know. I saw him take a little drag route, 3-yard drag, 5-yard drag to the house. Who was it against? I forget who he was playing in that game that I was watching. It's incredible. I'm excited to see him and how Georgia incorporates him. This is a guy at USC that they utilized everywhere. He'd play on the outside. He'd play in the slot. They even had him lined up a tailback a little bit. That's something that I'm curious about, because this year, the one thing that I kind of wanted to see when the running back room was getting short on depth because injuries was, hey, maybe you move Dylan Bell around and you move him back into the backfield to get him to create him some touches, some easy touches. I think Zachariah Branch is going to need that a little bit. You're going to have to manufacture him a few touches so you can get him going. That's what Georgia did so well, and they had a Brock Bowers or a Lab McConkey. We didn't see that much this year. Now, that could be, as Kobe said, more of not having a guy that deserves that or could play to that level. And we didn't really, nobody, I guess, realized it until after Brad and Ladden were gone, just how much they helped this unit. But then another thing that I think Georgia has filled so far through the portal is Zachariah Branch. He's 5'10", 175 pounds according to his profile. He's kind of similar to what we have in terms of size profile. Definitely different in terms of speed. He brings that to you. But Georgia went out and got something they desperately needed, Kobe. Desperately. I don't remember. The last one they had, the true X receiver, the last one they had was A.D. Mitchell. For him, George Pickens. This year, they thought they had two guys that could do that in Kobe Young and Ra Thomas. Obviously, Kobe lasted 4 games before he got suspended indefinitely, missed the rest of the year. Ra Thomas didn't even make it to fall camp before he was dismissed from the team. Noah Thomas could be that. 6'6", 200 pounds. This was A&M's leading receiver last season at 574 yards and 8 touchdowns. Now, A&M's kind of similar to Georgia. They didn't have very consistent production on the outside. But Noah Thomas was kind of the cream of the crop they had there, rose to the top, and made it work for him. I'm excited to see where this goes. The last receiver, veteran receiver that Georgia brought in, that was going to be an X was, I think, Lawrence Cager. And correct me if I'm wrong there, boys, in terms of one that went on to make an impact. Because we barely saw anything, Kobe, to say he made an impact.
Yeah, I think that, like you're saying, I think it's a huge to have the X receiver. If I think back over Kirby's tenure of having a really good, big-bodied X receiver, we've had some swings and misses recruiting wise. We've had some big name guys, some big bodies, some good speed that just had some trouble playing the receiver position consistently here. Now, they figured it out. They portaled, figured it out elsewhere, had good careers. I'm thinking Matt Landers. I'm thinking Tommy Bush. Some guys like that. Obviously, George, a huge success, has some injury issues in his career, but he's a first-round talent. Probably one of the best receivers to ever play. Here, definitely probably the best one to ever play under Kirby Smart. And then you kind of go on a rough run. Ra wasn't what you wanted him to be last year, or I guess maybe 2 years ago now, if you're considering this the postseason. And then he's dismissed from the team with problems. And then Colby Young, kind of the same way. You bring him in, hoping that he can be a Lawrence Cager type addition for you, someone that had struggled at Miami with some drops and some issues, and then came in 2019, and he was the focal point of that entire offense. So, when he went down hurt that year, the whole year kind of fell apart from there. So, I'm very excited to see, Noah Thomas is a name that we all kind of were hearing whispers and rumors about this time last year. I think that I'm happy to hear that it kind of came down again to either being here in Athens or back in Aggie land. I think that really shows that the guy's not really chasing a check. He's not really shopping around every place. He's really looking out for what's best for his career and where he feels most comfortable. And I think that's nice that, you basically lost that battle for him last year, and this year you win, you get him for a year, and you hope you can really exploit everything and help his career and help us as a team.
I think Lawrence Cager is a great name to bring up. A guy that came in here was productive. We didn't need him to be, Keyshawn Johnson. We didn't need that. We just needed the guy that could stabilize the position and make plays when we needed him. Became a big third. If I'm not mistaken, Cager became a big threat on third down, and especially in the red area or, in short jump ball areas. And a guy like Noah Thomas, just the fact that he's 6'6" alone is a big deal. And that's hard to contend with. And you're going to have to pay attention to it. You don't want to leave a guy that size one-on-one on the outside, especially around the end zone, because you're not, what are most corners, 5'10" to 6'1", somewhere in that range? I mean, he's already given up 5 inches. That guy's going to have a hell of a vertical just to be able to compete with him. If this guy can make plays, if he can catch, which I believe the graphic you sent today, Harrison, said he had 0 drops. Absolutely 0 drops this season, which is incredible. I don't know if you have that graphic, but and then 574 yards doesn't sound like a lot until you point out that he only had 39 catches. That's pretty good, YPC, yard per catch. And I just think that with the guys coming in, with the guys coming back, I think they have everything that they need. Now, to your point, Kobe, whether they produce or not is a completely different thing because, we've brought in names and we've brought in bodies that looked like they should have been pretty good for us and they maybe weren't. But hopefully we're turning the page. We've got new guys in here, maybe a new attitude. And I really hope it works out. Just like those 2 names right there, I don't know how you could be upset about it.
Yeah, the one fear I had at the start of this offseason when it first started, and even when George was playing through, we had heard so much about the receiver class that they just brought in, which in terms of star ratings collectively is the best receiver class that George has gotten out of high school in the Kirby Smart era. I mean, you have guys like CJ Wiley, Taylon Taylor, Landon Roldan. I mean, you have a bunch of guys in here. Tyler, we had another Tyler Williams come to Georgia boys that we'll be able to talk about over the next few years. Thomas Blackshear. Everyone was saying this is the most talented receiver class Georgia has gotten, and it may be in terms of star rating. But I was, I guess, fearful when the first few dominoes dropped in the portal class at receiver, and it went the other way, where Georgia didn't land them. It was thought Georgia was going to be a hot, top contender for these guys, and Eric Singleton. They went somewhere else. I was like, ooh. I was like, is Georgia just going to say, hey, the price is too high? we're just going to lean on the freshmen. We're going to lean on our development and our coaching. That's not what they're doing, which I think is a good thing. They need people that can help them now. And I think that's what Noah Thomas and Zachariah Branch helps them do. Now, like y'all said, getting them is one thing. Getting them to produce is another. We will see on that here over the next coming weeks. Boys, I guess before we turn into NFL draft declarations, we will touch on the 4 safeties Georgia brought in. Zion Branch, obviously the brother of Zion Branch, or of Zachariah Branch, started over the USC, has experience. He is going to be a redshirt junior when he gets to Athens. They brought in Jaden Harris, another one who was a starter elsewhere at another Power 5 program over there in Miami. He makes the switch over here to Georgia. If you ask Hurricane fans, they aren't too high on him. They got on him a lot on social media, which I'm sure is a relief for him in terms of getting away from that. They won't be too high on him, but there's something about him that got the attention of Travaris Robinson, Kirby Smart, Will Muschamp and company. They think they have a player there. And then there's an interesting name, Adrian Maddox, another starter, not at the P5 level, rather the G5 level. Adrian Maddox, safety out of UAB. He was PFF's highest graded defensive player over there for the Trailblazers. I'm excited to see how he plays. I was talking to Dan Kobe the other week when I had first heard that he was a name to pay attention to. I think the last guy that Georgia got at safety from a non-Power 5 school in the portal, one of the first ones I remember was J.R. Reed. I think it was Tulsa at the time, if I remember correctly. And J.R. Reed turned out to be who J.R. Reed was.
Yeah, that's exactly the comparisons I've been making to. I think Dan and I have talked about it. I've talked about it in a couple of group chats we're on Twitter. Is I think about the J.R. Reed situation with the Branch brothers a lot, just because we basically offered J.R. Reed, who is the cousin of D'Angelo Gibbs, who is a 5-star, athlete. Basically offered J.R. Reed in order to get D'Angelo Gibbs to come to school here. And then you turn around in 3 years and D'Angelo Gibbs played 8 years of college football at 4 different schools. And J.R. Reed played in the NFL, was a starter, all-conference player for us and played in the NFL as a 2-star transfer out of Tulsa. So, you come out in a deal looking smart with the safety, but who you really wanted was the guy that didn't pan out. Hopefully not the case with the Branch brothers, but it always makes me look at the poor guy we just have to take in order to get this 5-star athlete. Sometimes that's enough to make you mad that, hey, man, I'm not just a piece of luggage coming along with my brother's namesake. I'm here to play. I'm here to compete for a job and take meaningful snaps at this university.
Yeah, and it comes at a real position of need for him. Obviously, as we talked about, you're losing Dan Jackson, who's out of eligibility. You're losing Malachi Starks. Hey, 2 Dan guys right there that Dan was like high on when they were coming in to Georgia. Off to the NFL, you bring in 4 safeties, including Micah Bell, the brother of Dylan Bell, who commits to Georgia from Vanderbilt, started at Notre Dame, where he played running back, didn't record his stat this season when I checked. I don't know whether they'll position him here at Georgia. Maybe a running back for all I know, or he may go back to safety where he played at Notre Dame. Gentlemen, let's hop into draft declarations. Dan.
Declarations.
Declarations. Yeah, I don't know what I just said. I hope I said declarations or close to it. I think there's one place I want to start here, and I think it's one that has everybody talking. As much as seeing Michael Williams, Malachi Starks, Jalen Walker go into the draft and how much attention that's brought in terms of their future prospects come April, Georgia had a departure in the transfer portal in Damon Wilson, a pretty, I guess, impactful one when you pair it with the fact that Georgia's now left with just 2 outside linebackers / edge rushers that are not incoming freshmen.
Yeah.
I was trying to pass it off there in terms of getting your analysis on Damon Wilson. My bad.
So I was waiting for a question. So, yeah, we are absolutely thin at the outside linebacker position. I think it would be a spot that Kirby will address. But, that's one of those things, too, that people forget that your roster is not a done deal right at this moment. After spring, there's going to be a lot of players that have a better understanding of exactly where they're sitting. And that's going to be a great opportunity for Kirby and the staff to go out and look for an outside linebacker. Yeah. So sorry about that, Harrison. I was a little confused because you were talking about NFL declarations, and then all of a sudden you're like, he's leaving. I'm like, what?
Oh, Dan.
Am I breaking up? Because I'm getting y'all buffering on my end. Is my audio cutting up for y'all?
I think it's you.
Yeah.
Are y'all hearing me clearly, though?
You're clear on my end.
Yep.
Okay. I don't know what's going on tonight. It's been a weird one. Can throw and snap.
Yeah. What a guy.
Hey, I wonder if Kobe has more as well. Yeah. Kobe, if they throw in a 50-year,
I'm telling you,
go back?
If they threw in that blanket 5 years and done, maybe go back one last time.
Hey.
Like you're saying, outside linebacker room though, with Damon Wilson portaling, obviously he's just in the portal at the moment. I'm not sure when. I guess things are a little bit different because Ohio State's still playing in the playoffs, so he has a little bit more time to be able to be an addition maybe for them later. Which, if you're listening to this and you're wondering why, that is where he's favored to go. I think I saw him crystal ball there. They finished second in his recruitment out of high school. It's one of those tough things, and maybe I'm just not fully bought in to the NIL world yet. And some people would tell me you got to, pay up or shut up sometimes. But, it doesn't hurt my feelings. Like, you paid a nice price for Damon Wilson out of high school and while he's played well and been a good piece for you, I guess to hold the hostage or whatever over the year that you're going to be the number one guy at outside linebacker. I mean, if you okay, now I'm breaking up for sure. Can you hear me?
You're good now. Go ahead.
Cool. If you don't want that responsibility, okay, I knew something was going on.
All right. You go on.
Yeah.
Just carry the conversation. You're good.
But like you're saying, at some point, there's no reason to be asking for more money or saying that it's a scheme thing. When all the pressure is going to be on you. I mean, you could be a senior leader, a captain for this team, a leader on this defense. You could really fill a role where Michael and Jalen Walker took over this year. And if there's one thing I know about this defense, a Kirby Smart, Glenn Schumann type defense, you don't have to have the statistics, the book statistics, in order to, be able to be drafted. Trayvon didn't. Michael doesn't. I mean, Jalen Walker has good stats, but not phenomenal ones, and he's going to be a first-round pick. So, like you're saying, I guess stat chasing has only ever worked out for one person in my mind, and that's Jermaine Johnson. And I'm just not sure that, everybody's Jermaine Johnson. Not everybody can go be ACC Defensive Player of the Year. So, maybe he can be. Maybe Damon Wilson's a double-digit 15-sack guy at Ohio State, but I'm just not sure that means he gets drafted any higher than he would have being a 7-sack guy here leading this defense as well.
No, and I'm 100% lockstep with you, Kobe. This is not what the NIL and this is not what transfer portal was created for. It wasn't created for a guy who's in the starting position. It's not in the guy that's been taken care of, okay? This is a guy that's holding a school hostage. And I don't like that, not even at least a little bit. And you can call me the old man and tell me to get off the lawn or whatever the case may be. But this is not what it was created for. And this is what it's become. And, I think it was Joel Corey, who is an NFL scout and agent, that was on the radio not too long ago. And he talked about how this is fantasy land. This isn't real life. Like, in no walk of life is this how life works. When you go to a school, you sign a contract and an agreement. And the talk, coaches can leave whenever they wanted to. Cool. Yeah, that's true. But guess what coaches don't do? Leave every single year and go to a new school. That's not what they do. So, like, that argument loses weight and water. And, in the NFL, you sign a contract, and then you have to live out the duration of that contract. And if you want to hold out, that's fine, but you're going to get fined, and you have to give all that money back, and there's penalties to trying to hold out. So, the thing is, and this is a whole other conversation, but you kind of brought it up, is with what's happening now, there has to be some rules and regulations put in because, to your point, he was a starter. He was going to be a defensive leader of this team. And, in his mind, the best way to handle that senior leadership is to hold a school hostage. So, if he comes back, he comes back. But if he doesn't, he doesn't. I guess you can't have ill will towards him because he's playing the game. But I don't like it, not one little bit, not at all. And this isn't just because he's a Georgia player. I don't like it when they do it anywhere. I didn't like it when the Evan Stewart did it to Texas A&M, even though I hate Texas A&M. So I'm consistent on that. Harrison,
Harry,
live?
what are your thoughts, Harry, on asking for?
I am, guys.
demanding
My audio is complete trash right now. We are having extreme technical difficulties on my side.
All right. Well, then
I have no clue what's going on.
So, if you look at the guys, Kobe, that are going to go to the NFL draft, is there anybody on that list that you were a little bit surprised made a declaration to go to the NFL, or is it pretty status quo?
Yeah, I think that looking on here, a lot of the defenders, I think, are definitely got first-round grades. I mean, you look at Michael, you look at Jalen, you look at Malachi. All of them probably first-rounders. I think out of all of them, maybe Tyron Ingram Dawkins, probably out of the list that I'm seeing, is the biggest surprise. I mean, pretty much everybody else was either a 4 or 5 year guy. I thought Dylan Fairchild had a chance to maybe come back. I would say between TID and Dylan Fairchild, probably the two. Everybody else, I feel like, Warren Brinson, Tate Ratledge, guys have played a lot of snaps for us, same with Nazir Stackhouse. And then I think the young guy that maybe left, but I'm not surprised, would be Jared Wilson. I mean, guy got a really high draft grade. Guy's been talked about all year as possibly, the number 1 to number 2 center in this draft eligible. I would say that center at Ohio State was probably the number 1 center in the draft until he tore his Achilles. I think that probably hurts him a little bit in the draft process just because GMs overthink things like that. And they go, you may not ever be the same player. You may not move quite as well. That's how you get steals in the draft, in my opinion. But I could very easily see Jared Wilson be a 3rd round, 4th round pick. I think it'll project where he can play at the next level. Does he play a true center, or can he kind of be a guard combo? I think that's what kind of had Cedric Van Granger fall, is I think he is a true center at the next level.
Correct.
Versus if you can play some guard like Landon Dickerson, who played at Alabama, or I was trying to think Powers Johnson that played at Oregon, plays a little bit of both. That just being able to play multiple positions adds value to your draft capital. And at some point, if Jared Wilson can add value, then teams are going to seek him out earlier.
You're 100% right. And, with a position like that, if you could play guard and center, you could potentially go in round 2, because we've seen guards go in round 1 now. It used to be just kind of tackles in 1, but now guards – and so many guards are versatile. And look at a guy like – and I know this is way back, but Jamari Sawyer, he went – what was it, 2nd round or 3rd round? I can't remember.
Sawyer?
Yeah. Are you shitting me?
Yeah,
I don't know
Jamari
why.
Sawyer is a 6th round pick to the Chargers.
Pro Bowl guy, and he's got versatility. But the cool thing for me is, and you mentioned Dylan Fairchild, Matt Miller, who I have a lot of stock in. NFL scout Matt Miller, he feels like Dylan Fairchild could be the offensive line gem in this year's draft. He thinks he's completely undervalued. Very versatile guy, really talented, and has his best football ahead of him. And I didn't know that. About him. And I thought that was really fascinating, that he's being looked at as a player that could be much more productive at the next level than he was even at this level.
I think those are the ones that hurt the most as a college football fan. The people that have been not really stolen from you, but either an injury or a depth chart here or there has taken a lot of significant snaps. I mean, I think about George Pickens. I think about the fact that you basically got one fully healthy year of George Pickens, and it was when he was a freshman, a true freshman. Right. Amarius Mims, one of the highest rated prospects in this school's history. He basically has played more starting snaps in the NFL through one season than he played in his entire Georgia career. I mean, that's insane. And the guy's a first-round tackle. Same with this. I mean, it's not like Dylan Fairchild has been a name on the back of a jersey for a bunch of people in the stands for the last 3 or 4 years. He's really just broken into the lineup this year, and he's already getting high praises from the NFL saying, this guy's going to be a 10-year veteran possibly one day. It just kind of sucks that that's been taken away from you from unbelievably good offensive line depth over the years.
Yeah, I'm with y'all. I think Fairchild, Jared Wilson were, I guess, kind of a shock to me. I mean, the thing on Jared Wilson was, hey, once evaluators see this guy play, they're going to be enamored with him. And I think he did that this year for sure. I wasn't so sure that Fairchild was going to come back. I thought just with, I guess for me, just looking at the unit as a whole with how it underperformed, I was wondering if maybe, hey, scouts are going to turn on that tape and find something to critique their game to say, hey, you need to go back to school, especially with those two guys. But as y'all said, with guards and centers, these interior linemen, it makes me wonder what their draft grades were that made them come out. Because like y'all said, they don't go as high as tackles. They're not as valuable in terms of the draft. So what were these grades? We know Jared Wilson's going to test really, really well. I can't wait to see what he does at the combine. But the next one for me that I guess, I don't know if it was as much shocking as just hoping I could see another year of him playing fully healthy for Georgia was Tyrann Dawkins. He was one of my favorite players to watch on tape early. I mean, him and Gabe Harris really just took over that Kentucky game early in the year. I remember TID against Auburn a little bit earlier in the year as well. We're talking about another guy, just one really full season healthy. Injuries had hurt him over the last few years, and this year he finally was healthy, got back on the field, and played at a high level for Georgia. And the front seven, I think both lines of scrimmage have kind of taken a beating here with the draft and the portal. Georgia's looking at having 4 new starters potentially in the offensive line, maybe 5, depending on what Ernest Green decides. Then you're going to lose Nazir Stackhouse, Warren Brinson, Michael Williams, Tyrann Dawkins. That's 4 players from the defensive line. Then you add in an edge rusher like Jalen Walker, there's 5. You add in an inside linebacker, there's 6 and Smell Mondin. Like heavy attrition up front on both lines of scrimmage.
And what's crazy is some people don't want to be here to be the next man up.
It's just a different world we're living in.
I can keep hammering on that over and over again, but like you're saying,
I'm with y'all, man. It's the portal is free agency, as if every contract was expiring year after year after year. And
imagine if the NFL worked that way. What a shit show that would be.
Just a 1-year deal. Tom Brady could have ended up on any different team that he wanted to year after year. And that's just, I don't like it. It has ruined that in some senses. And like y'all said, it's not what the portal was designed to be. It was designed to give people more opportunities to pursue their dreams of getting to the NFL. Not, hey, I want a bigger pay raise, so I'm going to go over here where I can still start. And I know we're getting on a tangent here, so I'm gonna let Dan take his point, and then we'll get back on.
No, yeah, and I think one of the things that we have to consider is that the kids today are completely different. Now, my son is 17 years old. He's going to be a senior in high school, and he's getting ready to go through the recruiting process at a higher level. And what I'm telling you is, they don't have a favorite school, and this is not my son. It's all of his friends. They don't have a favorite school. They don't care about they care about players. They don't care about, like, when we grew up, we were attached to a school, a university, a community, our parents. They don't root for the same teams that we do. They don't give a shit about the schools. They only care about players. Like, he can tell you his favorite players. He doesn't care about the schools. And I'm not trying to poop on anything. I'm just saying that is the mentality of these kids that are coming out of high school. So they're like, why aren't they loyal to Georgia? They don't care about Georgia. It's what we live in. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I feel like you might as well crack the top on a full-blown Dan rant at this point. And it may just be a Top Dog Talk podcast rant. Like you're saying, I agree. Outside of, for whatever reason, always seems to be this way, outside of people from the state of Louisiana and LSU, nobody cares anymore. Like you're saying, you're fully willing to go to the place that is willing to offer you the kind of money that you think you deserve. With the offensive coordinator, whoever, and maybe in some ways that's better. Maybe not having a blind loyalty and doing what's best for you is great. But the hard thing is who knows what's best for you year in and year out. You know, it just is a difficult situation to think that, you know, you're having to re-recruit your roster every year. That a really good year with good depth pieces could completely annihilate a roster. I mean, ask FSU. Like, no one wants to be hot cold the way they were with basically a great year of portal additions, a mass exodus, another round of portal additions that don't work out well, and you're 2-10. I mean, you know, they're talking about firing Norvell after he went 13-1. You know, last year, 2-10 this year. Well, you roll the dice. What's he going to get next year? I mean, it could be 13-1 again. It could be 2-10 again. You just don't know because you don't have the foundational blocks at a place like that to be able to tell you. So, like you're saying, I think that eventually they're going to find some kind of stabilization for all of this. I just am worried about the way they're going. They just keep going farther and farther away from maybe what I would consider the stabilizing of it all. I mean, I think the potential of limiting it to 105 people and doing pure revenue sharing, I think that is interesting in its own right because, again, if we look at the National Football League, you get paid. You don't receive revenue shares. You just get paid, you know, point blank period. So I think that the big thing eventually will be a cap space number of, you know, you have 130 roster spots. This is your cap. You know, what kind of roster can you build with that money? And I think that some form of contracts, which I think we've talked about that Georgia and other schools are already pursuing, of if you do not, you know, complete your obligations to this university, then, you know, you're null void in this money that we owe you, or you owe some of that money back to us. So, all right, on the next thing here. So I think we're
getting back on track real quick, and we'll wrap up the draft segment here. I wasn't here for most of the draft segment because I was having technical difficulties. Although it's funny, I missed half the segment, and now my internet decides it wants to calm down, which is funny. But anyways, here we go. On the draft, boys, I have one question. I'm going to put y'all on the spot. Y'all seen the list, and there's maybe a little bit more that could enter or join this list in terms of decorations. How many first-round draft picks does Georgia have in this year's draft? Kobe, I'm putting you on the spot first. We're going to log your official predictions. I'll come back to this in April.
Yep, 3.
Ooh.
It'd be
which of the 3?
Yeah, Michael Williams, Jalen Walker, and Malachi Starks. Those would be your 3.
Dan, what say you?
That's exactly word for word what I had. The players, everything. I guess if you're going to go 4, maybe one of those offensive linemen sneak in, or Carson Beck, because, you know, some teams might get. It all depends on if Carson can throw, and I don't think he's going to be able to throw. So I don't know. I think 3 is the number because I don't think Carson's going to be able to throw.
I'm stuck here. I think 3 is the safe answer because I think Malachi Starks and Michael Williams are, I think, locks for first-round picks. I'm obviously going to put Jalen Walker in that lock category as close to it as possible. But for the sake of
Jalen Walker might be
different,
top 10.
Yeah, I think he doesn't. He goes at the very least top 15.
Oh, I thought you were saying barely gets that. Never mind. I'm sorry.
No. I think he's definitely on that category of, hey, I think he's a lock for the first round. You know, safety's interesting. I think Malachi's definitely a first round talent. This draft is going to be interesting in terms of value. What are they valuing position wise? But outside of those 3, like y'all are saying, Carson stock's fluctuating. We don't know where that's at in terms of valuation, how they look at what Georgia's offense did this season, who gets the blame. how do they evaluate him with all the drops and all that? Yeah, I'm I guess for the sake of being different, I guess we'll go 4, but I think three's the realistic answer in this scenario.
I think the thing that's working best for Malachi in this situation is a light safety draft. And everything I've seen about declarations, he is by far going to be safety number 1, at least at this point in the process. Maybe through some testing, through some different evaluations in the draft, it seems like they always outthink themselves a little bit, but I think safety 1 gets taken in the first round.
Yeah, I'm excited to see where those guys end up. We will come back to this post draft just to see how we do. I won't put you on the spot about the total number of people drafted. We'll do that when all the declarations are out there to be had. But I'll be curious to see what that number ends up being this year for Georgia. Gentlemen, it's time. Let's get into our CFP semifinal predictions. We won't really dive into previews much here. This is just going to be a competition, and it won't really be a competition because I think all of us are going to pick the same 2 teams to make the national title. I don't know. Maybe not. There's really only, I guess both. You can swing either way for both matchups. But I think, judging by the national media, one of these matchups is already like a done deal in their opinion. Let's see. Let's start with Dan. We're going to start with Dan with the team that he has a connection to in terms of his past, family ties. See if he picks against his family. Notre Dame, Penn State, the Orange Bowl, 7:30 kick on January 9th. Notre Dame is a 1.5 point favorite. Dan, who does Dan Kiley pick for this game?
This is an interesting game. I think Notre Dame surprised a lot of people, us included, with how complete of a football team they are. Now, they didn't do anything that was awe-inspiring on offense, but their defense was extremely aggressive. And, the one thing that Penn State offers is they offer Warner at tight end, who he's a problem. I mean, he's the problem. He can do everything. He was a high school quarterback. Yeah, he can throw the ball. He can run the ball. He can catch the ball. He can block. He's a really complete player. But I'm not really a big fan of their quarterback, Alford, or Alford. How do you say it? Is it Alford? Is that right? Allard. It's Allard.
Allard. Yeah.
Yes, Allard. And I don't know. Why am I solo screen? I don't like that. Take me off a solo screen. And I just think Notre Dame's a good football team. We're really surprised by them. I guess my only question would be, with a condensed week, are they okay? But I mean, I'm going to go with Notre Dame because until James Franklin wins a really big game, I'm just out on him.
I love how like solo screen just makes Dan feel like he's in like this dark closet by himself, just closed in from the outside world. Buddy, we're still here. We're just the magical voices just sitting behind, letting people see your face as you talk.
Dan,
Toby.
This is your conscience speaking.
Yeah.
Pick the Irish, Dan.
Pick the Irish. Yeah, you'll be solo screening. You'll like it. Kobe, we're putting you in the hot seat now. Who are you picking for this game?
Yeah, I'm hoping all the Irish fans that were commenting on our video last week are still here, because I'm here to tell you, you got lucky in the Sugar Bowl, and this is a Penn State victory to the national championship. James Franklin gets it done, wins another big game, and I think that the dual threat of being able to run the ball, they're going to be able to run the ball with efficiency on Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame is going to try to, throw the ball a little bit more with greater success than they did against us. I think it's a little bit more, not high scoring, but probably 31 wins the game, 31-35, somewhere in that range. But I think Penn State gets it done, which is shocking to say, but we're all in on the Nittany Lions from here on out.
Well, Kobe may be all in on the Nittany Lions, but I'm going to side with Dan on this one. I'm going to pick Notre Dame, and if they lose, I'm going to have to go find the person that asked if we watch the games and ask them if they watch the games. Because if I'm siding with the Irish and you let me down when I pick y'all, we're going to have problems. But I just think this game's going to come down to whether or not Riley Leonard can be Superman again for him in the clutch. He really, really made his plays when they needed him to with his legs against Georgia. I think you're going to need it here again, probably at a higher level in terms of yardage. I don't think 90 yards passing gets it done unless you're just running all over Penn State, which Oregon did show. You can this Penn State defense can be got, but you got to have the racehorses on the out wide to do it. You got to be able to spread them out. I don't know if that suits Notre Dame, but hey, this is going to be a physical football game. But I'm picking the Irish. Because, hey, they came after us. So if y'all are playing with that much confidence, who's going to stop you? Spoiler alert, the team that makes it through the other semifinals is going to stop y'all. With that being said, let's start with the Goodyear Cotton Bowl. January 10th, 7:30 kick. Ohio State is down to a 5.5-point favorite. Kobe, you've had mixed results when picking Texas and picking against Texas, which is why you're going last. I will go first here. Dan, I've been battling with this one all week long. Josh Pate has compared
He's a Texas
Ohio
fan.
State to LSU in terms of, he called it the buzzsaw theory, how they just ran through their competition in the playoffs. And I see what he's getting at there. With Jeremiah Smith, Emeka Egbuka, they've been really, really good and look damn near unstoppable. I think we're all on record. Ohio State looked the best in the playoffs so far, by far.
Yes.
But I'm really excited to see this game because as much as I think it's going to be a close game and it's going to come down to the very last possession, this very well could, knowing what Ohio State has been on in terms of runs, this could be a blowout or a decisive win for the Buckeyes. I just got questions. I haven't seen Texas put together a full 4 quarters of play. Whoever's making the drum roll. We're picking that up. I'm picking the Irish here. Or, good God. I'm picking the Buckeyes here. I think it's going to be tight, but I think they're going to pull away late. I just think with their offense, how good they're rolling. Will Howard's been playing at an elite level for them in the postseason, which I never thought I'd say coming in to the year. I think Ohio State pulls it out, and America's finest can of hair dye makes it into the national championship game again. Dan.
All season long, I've been saying that Ohio State's the most talented team in the entire country. The issue that I had with them is that they weren't playing up to it. They were inconsistent. They were unimpressive. However, Michigan, who hates Ohio State, may have done Ohio State the biggest favor in the world, which was wake them up. And, I know that Ohio State's trying to downplay that loss to Michigan like it doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, it really pissed off a lot of people. And now they're playing good football. And I've never been a big proponent of Texas at any point this year. I think they were what I always call, and sorry, Kobe, I know you love Penn State, but, paper tiger. I always thought that Penn State was a little bit of a paper tiger. I thought that Texas was a bit of a paper tiger. I haven't seen Texas play a game that just really made me impressed at any point this season. And that's fine. Call me a hater, tell me I'm stupid, whatever you want to say. I don't care. But they have not overly impressed me at any point. What Ohio State did to Oklahoma or Oregon impressed the shit out of me. And then if that's the team that's going to be showing up when they play in the Cotton Bowl, right? I'm riding with Ohio State on that one. And listen, if Texas wins, I'm not going to be upset. I don't like Ohio State, so I'll be happy. But just based on what I saw last week and the week before that, I think Ohio State's playing their best football when you're supposed to be playing your best football.
All right, let's build up some suspense here. Kobe, I'm going to let you sit on this prediction for a second because I have a question for Dan. Dan,
What?
You have a family member that is a Michigan fan. What is his reaction going to be if Ohio State wins the national title after Michigan beat them?
I've already asked him, and he says, I don't care. We beat them, so who gives a shit? So
okay. There we go. Kobe, it's your time in the hot seat. Who wins in the Cotton Bowl?
Texas rolls, boys. The DBs at Texas get the job done. I mean, they got the white safety in the back, Taff. I've seen that man in no more than 5 different games this year absolutely target the shit out of a receiver across the middle of the field and not get called for it a single time. I would have my head on a swivel if I was playing receiver at Ohio State this week. We know how they don't like to be hit. Watch the Peach Bowl 2022. Nobody likes the big hits. Ohio State is all about throwing to open receivers, getting out of bounds, avoiding contact, the whole thing. I think Texas is physical. They got the just the back end. And I think the nice thing is they got the front to stop some of the run. The dual-headed monster that Ohio State has in the backfield is impressive, to say the least. I think Texas is very physical. They're tough against the run. They're going to make them throw to beat them, and I think they have the back end to slow that down enough. And if we get into a field goal kicking competition, man, I would not want to be the people in Columbus, because my man Burt Auburn, just the nice flowy locks, ice in his veins. The man just doesn't miss as long as he's not playing in Atlanta, which this game I checked, not in Atlanta. He's going to be okay.
That man missed 6 field goals in the back end of the year.
All in Atlanta. All of them in Atlanta. I double-checked. I triple-checked, Dan. They're not playing it in Mercedes-Benz. They're playing it somewhere else, out in Texas. So
someone needs to go back and clip Kobe's part of the prediction, just the first part, and send it to him. That might be a wall framer for him. Dan siding with Notre Dame. Dan, we got an error. Sorry, Dan. I'm fixing it.
Dan's rolling with me.
Longhorns.
He's rolling with me and spray tan Magoos.
Dan's picking Notre Dame and Ohio State. I'm picking Notre Dame and Ohio State. Kobe, the lone contrarian, as he's, I guess, made his norm over the last few predictions. Penn State in Texas. If I've learned anything about Kobe making picks with us and being the contrarian, you might want to hedge your bets if you're picking with him. Just go ahead and hedge them. But to say the least,
I got to be able to sleep at night. You know what I mean? And I just couldn't sleep at night picking Ohio State to win anything.
Well, there's no way in hell I could have 2 Big Ten teams in the national championship. I think I would.
That would be hell.
I would lock myself in a closet.
Hey, I could go ahead and do that for you real quick.
Oh, I'm in a glass cage of my emotions.
For those not watching on YouTube, that was Dan being put into the screen. Just full context right there. Dan, it's time for the long-awaited return of the blind draft. Sir, if you will, as I set up this Google Doc, will you tell us the rules and then reveal what the blind draft is tonight?
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, return of the blind draft. What we do is we try to pick a topic, any topic. It could be whatever you want. I think one of them Harrison did for me was candy bars. I did cartoons for him, childhood cartoons. So this one is topical, and it is relevant for what's going on in at the time of the year right now. So I'm going to tell you what the topic is, and then this one has 7. So I couldn't narrow it to 5. So I have 7, and I'm going to give you one of the topics, and you have to place it 1 through 7. 1 being the very best, 7 being the worst. And then at the end of the blind draft, we're going to see where you rated everything and see how happy you are about the order that you put them. All right. So this week's blind draft topic is great moments in college football history.
Oh.
All right. So you can unmute Kobe so you can be part of this. All right. So great moments in college football history. And I just have them written down. I'm not going to tell you why I have them in this order. It's just whatever. So topic number 1, and we'll go back and forth. So Harrison will go first on this one. Kobe will go second. And then next time Harrison or Kobe will go first. Okay. So great moment in college football history. Number 1, Sony Michel touchdown versus Oklahoma.
Good Lord. He's starting it off with a heater. And this is just college football in general.
College football in general. Just great moment. Like I'm talking about, like, this isn't like a game that was just good. I'm talking about like the moment was great.
Kobe may punch me in the face for this, but just considering how that year ended in the most painful of ways, I'm gonna dock points just for that. I'm gonna put this at 6 just because of how it ended in terms of, hey, Georgia didn't end up winning that game. Or didn't end up winning the national title that year. If they did, this would be top 3 for me.
All right, Kobe.
Yep, 3. Easy.
All right.
Ooh,
You could have copied and pasted there, Slick Rick.
I could have. Whatever. I like typing.
All right. All right. Great moment in college football history. Number 2. Kobe, you go on this one. Auburn, kick 6, Chris Davis, 108-yard return to beat Alabama.
Yeah, I would say probably number 2 for me. It's one of the greatest plays probably in college football history. And the call to go with it is
Eli
what's so
Gold?
crazy.
Or the Auburn call. The Auburn call. Yeah. All right, Harrison.
You know, I don't know in terms of if there's like a much better call in terms of that one and just the moment of that whole game and all that. I don't remember how that season ended for Auburn. Could someone remind me?
Lost in a national championship.
See, I'm gonna dock him points here. It could be number 1 easily for me, but I'm gonna dock him points. I'm gonna go with Kobe here, and we're going number 2.
All right. Great moment in college football history. Number 3. Harrison will go first this time. The Boise Statue of Liberty play in the bowl game, Fiesta Bowl versus Oklahoma.
Mm.
And then,
See,
then he proposes to his girlfriend right afterwards.
now that adds some style points to that one, but I wouldn't put that above Sony Michel. I'm going at 7. Kobe, what do you say?
Yeah, I'm going to play it safe. You know, call me a hater. I definitely hold grudges. I do. And that ass whooping I sat through in the Red Ranger jerseys means that I couldn't give a shit about Boise State or the Statue of Liberty, especially together. But I think I'm going to have to go 6 here just in case Dan does like 2020 Florida versus Georgia or something crazy.
I don't like that laugh. I don't like that giggle.
All right. So you got it down there at 7. Where did he go with it?
He went at 6, right?
Okay. Oh, yeah. All right. So who's up first this time?
Kobe.
Okay. All right. Here we go. Great moments in college football history. The miracle at Michigan. Cordell Stewart, 73-yard Hail Mary to beat Michigan.
I'm going to go with 5.
And do you know who he threw it to? Do you remember who he threw it to?
Nope.
Harrison?
Nope.
Michael Westbrook.
Yep. That's why it's going right there, nudging nice and snugging at 5.
No, not Michigan State. It's Colorado.
See?
Oh, my bad.
So you don't even know who it was.
See? There you go.
I swear, I heard Michigan. I just instantly thought Michigan State for some reason.
It's called the miracle at Michigan.
I'm already regretting putting Sony at 6 right here because this would easily be a bottom feeder for me. I guess I got to go 5 because I can't go any lower. Dan, was I even alive for this? Probably not.
No, neither one of you were. All right, moving along. I actually watched the game.
Dan's like, I had some beers that game. Neither of you were alive.
All right, here we go. Now, listen, neither one of you are alive for this one, but you better freaking know it. Doug Flutie's Hail Mary to be upset Miami. Huge upset, won him the Heisman Trophy.
I'm going at 4.
Kobe?
I'm also going to go at 4. I'm going to roll the dice here, Dan.
All right.
Yeah, I'm trusting you, Dan.
Now, listen, I have 2 left. One of them All right. Well, then I'm not going to even do that because that'll ruin it. All right.
Kobe has number 1 and number 7 open, so he's like really screwed.
All right. All right. So Vince Young touchdown versus USC in the Rose Bowl to win the national championship is a walk-off touchdown. Keith Jackson on the call, my favorite broadcaster of all time.
See, I think historically speaking here, I've done a good job. I'm going with 1 just because I think people would argue that is one of the most iconic walk-off wins ever. I would say I have the walk-off wins in order, the top 3 at least, pretty dang spot on.
This is tough. And really great case for number 1 here. Just, I mean, in terms of what I was trying to do, in terms of docking points for depending on like what happened after that. I mean, I can't not put it at 1, considering he won the damn national title after this. Probably one of those moments where it's just like when everyone looks back on that, you're just left wondering, how the hell did he not win the Heisman? Oh, it's because a guy named Reggie Bush also existed at that same time. I'm going to ride with Kobe here. I think it has to go at 1. I don't know what number 3 is, but I have a feeling it might be Georgia related. But we'll see. I'll leave it up to Dan.
All right. So I just for me, the Vince Young play is number 1 in my book. That's always going to be the number 1 play. However, this is the last play, and you guys don't even get to pick where it goes. It's just going to go where it goes. ESPN and in the top 100 years of college football rated this play number 1. And it is called simply The Play. Do you know what it is? It's the number 1 play. So it is the Stanford Cal. The Cal wins, and the band is on the field. The band is on the field.
Yep, I'm very happy with where the play ended up for me, honestly.
You know, I regret.
I know what you're talking about, because ESPN College Game Day loves once a year to remind about the play. The band's on the field. He hit the tuba or this whatever
tuba. You're right.
Yeah. It's an iconic play. I agree. As far as it's back in the day before a lot of review or security at some point. I mean, could you imagine if something happened like that today?
That shit would have been wild. Yeah. Well, the band doesn't go on the field after the game anymore, so like that would have never happened in today's world.
But weren't they rushing the field? Like part of it was like they thought they had won, so they were like rushing the field.
Hell, I don't know. That shit was crazy to me.
Yeah.
Dan, how would your list differ from either of ours? Would it differ much?
You have to zoom in.
Who do you most agree with?
Honestly,
I think Kobe's pretty perfect.
Yeah. I think Kobe. If I had to pick, I would pick Kobe's. So, oh boy, sneeze! It's coming.
Like you're saying, I think I would have to see the Colorado Hail Mary play because I'm not familiar with that play. Like you're saying, I think about just iconic moments and the calls that go with them. I can't remember the Doug Flutie call, but like the Auburn's going to win the football game. Unbelievable. And then this, Sony Michel's going to send the Dogs, back to Atlanta, that whole thing. Being on that team, I almost just smacked that bad boy at 1 and called it a day. But the Statue of Liberty was cool. I can't really give him the proposing after, like, whatever.
Well, and also keep in mind, that's the first time that Boise State ever beat somebody important.
Yeah.
That was a big, like, so.
Yeah, then we remember the second big win for him.
Is there a glaring miss on my part? Is there a game that you would have put on this list? I was going to include App State beating Michigan because in my lifetime, that's really the first massive upset that I can remember. I mean, I know back before I was born, there were some, like Notre Dame beating UCLA in college basketball to break up a 5-year win streak. I mean, like there's some stuff like that. But like in my lifetime, probably App State beating Michigan was the big, because Michigan was ranked number 2, were they not? Mm-hmm. That was a shot heard around the world. I mean, that That was massive. So, is there a game that you would have put on this list that I did not include?
As much as I hate to admit it, in terms of moments, 2nd and 26, I'm sure a lot of Bama fans would argue is up there. But I'm glad you didn't put it on the list because that would have been hurt.
We've been on the receiving end of a couple iconic, the tip six, or I guess the prayer and Jordan Hare, both.
Hey, the Hail Mary by Tennessee. I thought for sure
the Dobnail boot.
Oh my God!
I thought Dan was gonna put that in there.
I had
you don't understand.
Premium sideline viewage of that one.
You don't understand. So I was sitting in my loft, and when you come over to my house, you'll see where my loft is. And there was a birthday party going on out in the backyard for a friend, and like a little child. And when that happened, the obscenities that came out of my mouth and the decibel level in which they were shouted scared the entire neighborhood. I've lost friends because of that day. Like they're scared to come around this house. That was more. And you have no idea how big of a Jacob Eason fan I was. I thought he was the next coming. I was going to ordain him.
I was just about to mention that. I was like, Dan was a Jacob Eason stan from what he's told me. And after seeing him, Riley Ridley, I mean, it's hard not, in the moment being like, wow.
I don't know if you count this as like a moment or a big play, because I guess it was an accumulation. But Joe Burrow's Oklahoma semifinal game, to me, is as far as like in my recent history of just like pure dominance.
I think that would be performance, not moment.
Man, though, 7 touchdowns. It was just insanity at a playoff level to watch.
So I didn't screw you guys today. I didn't screw you. I didn't give you a flop. I gave you good games.
The other one, Dan, and speaking of Burrow, the play of Joe Burrow that is always in my mind in that 2019 season was when he outran Georgia's whole defense line and found Justin Jefferson running from his left all the way back to his right, evading Jordan Davis. I think was it
Trayvon Walker? Yeah.
Just evaded all of them and just made this sensational throw down the field. That's one to me. Another one, I was trying to think. I had another play on my mind.
I had one in my mind that, Dan, you're going to have to help me with some age because it's an
Run Lindsey Run would have been, I think, one Georgia fans would want up there.
Yeah.
What's what national championship was it? I think it was Miami. It might have been Ohio State.
Oh,
the no call in the end zone. Yeah.
Miami, Ohio State. Ohio State wins the national championship. Miami, quite possibly the greatest team to not win.
Yes.
What's up with Miami being on the tail end of some of these controversial calls? Like they had a few this year, 2 games.
Because they hated Miami. You don't understand the national hatred. Miami was that first team that really, and I don't even
went
know
against
if I want
the
to touch
grain.
it. Yes, I don't know. I was gonna say I don't know if I want to touch this one. They were a cultural nightmare for. You have to understand the nature of the atmosphere.
It's all right, Dan. It's all right, Dan. We get it. We get it, Dan. Relax.
We get it. Yeah.
It was a different world. We were living in a different world. It was very conservative. The entire country was very conservative, and they were very outgoing, and they were just in your face. And there were a lot of people that didn't like it. And I think to this day that Miami gets screwed a lot of times because of that. But man, the accumulation of talent. You want to talk about the Alabama teams? There's been in my mind, and you'll never convince me otherwise. You can give me all the stats you want to. Those Miami teams that put 24 people on that one roster ended up going in the first or second round of the NFL draft. Get out of here, bro. I mean, that's insane. I know Georgia had a historic draft, but those Miami, they're all Hall of Famers, man. They're all Hall of Famers. They weren't just drafted. They're like Hall of Famers. Dude, Miami was so sick. And I'm not a Miami fan.
We were talking about what? Ed Reed and Sean Taylor just being 2 of the best safeties of all time.
In the same secondary, bro.
Insane.
Hey,
Well,
I got one for you. The Falcons passed on Ed Reed for T.J. Duckett. Fucking idiots.
well, with that being said, there's your one F-bomb of the show. That's going to be all for this edition of Top Dog Talk. That's Dan Kiley. That's Kobe Pierce. We will be back Sunday at 7:30. Same time, same place. Make sure you go like and subscribe. We should be having the return of a Dan rant. We had a miniature one today, although it was more of a Top Dog Talk rant in general. We do have one coming down the pike. We're trying to see
a good
where
one
it
too.
fits. It is. It will be one worth watching whenever it comes. We're hoping we will fit it in. We want to make sure it flows all together, and we're hoping maybe some news will come out that will help us make it centered around the show. So we will bring that to you as close and as fast as possible. With that being said, Dan, Kobe, if you want to unmute, you can add yourself into this one. Here's your cue.
Go Dogs.